Come on through. Come on through. What is happening here? Wow. What is this lady doing? Trampling. Trampling horses. Trampling. Stop it. Stop it. Look.
That was dramatic, deploying horses to stomp on protesters. But there were countless small moments of tyranny, things that belong more in Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, China, not Canada. Remember when this elderly man, 5 feet high, was physically abused simply because he honked his horn in support? This was one of the most disgraceful moments I saw of police brutality at Trudeau's direction. Remember this?
For what? Hey! What are you doing?
Failing to ID.
Hey! Hey! That's assault! I've got it all on video. Yeah, he failed to ID.
And I went to turn away to walk away to the van, and I went to turn, and he grabbed me by the shoulders and then said, "You are under arrest." I'm afraid to go out of the house. I'm afraid of them.
Of course, the great overreach was the invocation of martial law, seizing bank accounts. Apparently only 200 of Trudeau's opponents had their bank accounts seized, which is atrocious. No one should have. But those 200 spooked probably 2 million Canadians who thought, well, I'm a conservative. I oppose Justin Trudeau. I may have donated to the truckers. I may have donated to the Conservative Party or Maxime Bernier's People Party. Am I going to have my bank account seized? We don't know the total number, but it wouldn't surprise me if billions of dollars was withdrawn from Canadian banks and relocated to the U.S. or another jurisdiction with the First Amendment beyond Trudeau's reach. Luckily, even some of Trudeau's own senators were shocked and appalled by his misconduct, and they balked and they refused to support the Emergencies Act when it went to the Senate, and Trudeau had to walk it back. But the spell was broken. The false consciousness that all Canadians supported the lockdowns and vaccine mandates and Trudeau's brutal language, that was broken. I mean, this was actually considered acceptable. Remember when Trudeau said, "Do the unvaccinated take up too much space? Should we even tolerate them? Aren't they just misogynistic?" Here's a few video clips that were considered normal and that, if anything, got cheerleading from the media party. None of these atrocious, bigoted statements I'm about to show you were condemned by the media. They loved it. Remember these?
Les gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination,
Ils sont extrémistes.
qui croient pas dans la science, qui sont souvent misogynes, souvent racistes aussi. C'est un petit groupe, mais qui prend de la place. Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays. Est-ce qu'on tolère?
Get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk. We need to be strong in the decisions we're taking going forward.
Truckers pierced that balloon, not just the thousands of truckers, but the hundreds of thousands, maybe even 1 million Canadians who went out along the highways and overpasses to watch them and see them. And they weren't just watching and seeing this amazing democratic phenomenon. They themselves were realizing that they had been lied to by the regime media, that there was this artificial unanimity. Trudeau kept saying 90% of people support this. 90% of people took the jab. I don't believe that statistic is true, actually. But if it is true, it's because people were forced to on pain of being terminated. The people who went out to cheer for the truckers, this was their way of proving that they weren't the crazy ones, even though everyone said they were. But Trudeau, who was destroying our civil liberties, was the crazy one. A lot of good things started to happen. Justin Trudeau, of course, showed his true face. He bared his fangs, and I think people don't look at him the same way since. Aaron O'Toole, who initially told his caucus never to talk to the truckers, he was thrown out by his Conservative caucus that was sick of him being a liberal Me Too. Jason Kenney, who bizarrely became one of the most abusive enforcers of the lockdowns, he was thrown out by his party as well, replaced by Danielle Smith just last week, who has repeatedly said that the lockdowns were a civil liberties disaster and who, in fact, said she would apologize to Albertans who were punished by the lockdowns and the mandates. The truckers did a lot of things. And Trudeau didn't forget that. Trudeau is a vengeful man. He has vendettas. He wants to get even. It's one reason why he extended the ban on travel for unvaccinated people longer than any other country in the free West. Only China and countries that abusive and totalitarian, North Korea, had those kind of punitive rules against the unvaccinated as long as Trudeau did. Trudeau failed in large part because of our coverage, but now he's getting a do-over. This judicial commission that I referred to, that is now 6 weeks going to run in Ottawa. If you actually look at the mandate, the terms of reference, you'll see that what was supposed to be putting Trudeau on trial for his violation of our civil liberties, well, Trudeau has told the judge, nah, I'm not much interested in that, mate. I want you to put the truckers on trial. I'm going to read now from the official mandate letter that was given to the judge by Trudeau. A, the evolution and goals of the convoy and blockades, their leadership, organization, and participant. Let me back up a bit. Let me read the preceding line. The commissioner must examine issues to the extent relevant to the circumstances of the declaration and measures taken. So Trudeau is ordering the judge to focus on these things. The evolution and goals of the convoy and blockades, their leadership, organization, and participants. The impact of domestic and foreign funding, including crowdsourcing platforms. C, the impact, role, and sources of misinformation and disinformation, including the use of social media. Hang on, none of those things there have anything to do with what Trudeau did. Putting the truckers on trial for misinformation is a laugh. I mean, the CBC went with this crazy story of misinformation and foreign meddling. Look at this nutbar. By the way, she has since been promoted at the CBC. Here she is saying the Putin, Vladimir Putin, was behind the truckers. I'm laughing, but it's so deeply embarrassing for the regime media. Remember this?
Canada's support of Ukraine in this current crisis with Russia. I don't know if it's far-fetched to ask, but there is concern that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
She's being promoted. But my point is, this trucker commission has been instructed by Justin Trudeau not to scrutinize too closely Trudeau himself, but rather to put the truckers on trial and their misinformation, as if misinformation or as if the trucker leadership in some way would justify the suspension of our civil liberties. You know, Trudeau doesn't really believe in the rule of law. We know this from countless examples. I'll give you a few of them. He doesn't believe that norms about sexual assault apply to him. You'll remember when he was caught having sexually assaulted Rose Knight in Creston, BC, he just shrugged and told journalists, well, she experienced it differently. Remember that?
This lesson that we are learning in, and I'll be blunt about it, often a man experiences an interaction as being benign or not inappropriate, and a woman, particularly in a professional context, can experience it differently, and we have to respect.
He's been doing it his whole life. He gets away with things. You know, he tells the story of when his own family had a run-in with the police. His father just made a few phone calls as a child and made the whole thing go away. He was grown up believing that he was above the law. Remember this shocking interview? I think this was with Vice.
He got in a terrible, terrible car accident, and his truck tumbled, and a Sucrets box went flying across the highway. And when the police were helping him clean up and tow, they opened up the Sucrets box, and there's a couple of joints inside. So he was charged with possession. When he got back home to Montreal, my dad said, okay, don't worry about it. Reached out to his friends in the legal community, got the best possible lawyer, and was very confident that we were going to be able to make those charges go away. We were able to do that because we had resources. My dad had a couple connections.
You don't have to reach back into ancient history. Trudeau fired his Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, the first Indigenous Justice Minister in Canadian history, because she wouldn't let him rig a criminal trial for bribery and corruption of his pals at SNC-Lavalin. He literally fired the Justice Minister because she wouldn't let him meddle in that trial. Remember that? And of course, his repeated corruption and violation of the Conflict of Interest Act. He just won't stop taking gifts and benefits, $100,000 secret vacation on Billionaire Island in the Bahamas. He is rebuked again and again and doesn't give a damn. Why should he? The laws are for the little people. What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday, I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.